Everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. It is Tuesday, heading off of week 15, heading into week 16. And you already know that means it's time to talk about the waivers. So that's what we are going to be doing today. But we're doing a little bit of a special spin. We'll actually be answering your waiver questions, as you know, this is an important time of the year. You guys are now probably in your semifinals. Every team is different. I will give a quick rundown, a very quick rundown of some players that I'll be looking at. But for the most part, I want to answer your questions. I want to help you guys out. So go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And of course, as always, welcome in here, everyone. Bach, Alex, our fearless producer, Dustin, Happy Hudson, Donald, and more. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening as well. Again, guys, you can find the podcast via the link in the description. And Brittany, of course, asking if that's a Gingerbread House coffee mug. Yes, of course. I'm a festive fella. I've got all sorts of different Christmas mugs. And unfortunately, even though I ordered my Wake and Take coffee mug almost 2 weeks ago, it still hasn't come in for me. And I'm getting pictures from all of you that have got the wonderful Wake and Take mug delivered straight to your door. I've seen the great pictures. It's incredible. I wish I had my own, but instead, which I'm not complaining. I love my Gingerbread House coffee mug. It's pretty massive. This is basically 2 cups of coffee. And your boy's feeling it right now for sure. Caffeine is definitely a thing. And yes, I love Christmas. So, guys, like I said, this is a big week. It's week 16. This is the fantasy football semifinals for all of us, really. And you guys are looking at your team, and you're like, hey, what do I need to do? You know, I'm looking at the waivers. You know, for the most part, probably none of you are even looking to get someone off waivers to help you. So I kind of just want to, like I said, I want to answer your questions if there are any. If there's not, this will be a quick show, I will say. Let's get into it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to briefly run down my thoughts at each position, some players that you could look at. And I'm not even really going to go into why, unless, again, we don't really get any questions. We'll see. We'll just kind of go through this. But for the most part, as we talked about last week, at this point of the year, you're really only just trying to get those lottery tickets, which you probably have been doing that all year anyway. You're just putting backup running backs on your bench, not really in the hopes that someone gets injured, but in case someone gets injured and that player becomes someone that you actually can start. But for the most part, I mean, like, are you really going to want to pick up Brandon Cooks in the playoffs? No. More than likely, no. Do you really want to pick up Noah Gray in the playoffs to rely on him? No, probably not, but, some players, you lost your tight end, maybe you lost a running back, you lost a wide receiver, lost a quarterback, or it's a deeper league and you're just kind of looking. So again, I will go ahead and very quickly run through this. You guys go ahead and start dropping your questions, and then we'll just go through those. At the quarterback position, there are 5 guys that I think are at least interesting. For the most part, this is going to be super flex lensed. But again, in single QB, if you are desperate, I do like Drake May. He's going to get it done, right? Whether like we saw this week in garbage time or we've seen in weeks prior where he just gets it done during the game. On the ground, couple passing touchdowns, 200-something passing yards. Not a huge ceiling, but still a decent enough floor that, if you're hurting at quarterback, Drake May is heavily available. And likely someone you can actually still rely on, especially this week. He's going up against the Buffalo Bills. That should lead to fantasy points. After that, there's Jameis Winston as well. And I know that he just had a stinker. In fact, he's been kind of stinking in general. But if he is to start, he's just hit or miss. And, some people are able to accept that kind of risk. And I do think that at some point he will bounce back to having a classic Jameis Winston good game. And why not this week? And then there are 3 others that if you're in Superflex and they're available, I actually don't hate it. Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, we've seen him at least be fine. And the last 2 games for him are the Buccaneers and the Eagles. both games that could end up leading to some points. Buccaneers, not a great secondary. Eagles, very good secondary, but a divisional game. Bryce Young, they do take on Arizona this week, so not the best of defenses. And same after that, they do take on Tampa Bay, another secondary that's pretty soft. And Bryce Young's been playing a little bit better as well. And then Mac Jones. Mac Jones, believe it or not, has 2 games out of the last 3 weeks with 20 or more fantasy points and takes on Las Vegas this week and the Tennessee Titans next week. So 2 soft defenses there as well. So Mac Jones and Superflex could be fun. So that's all I'll say about the quarterback position. For the most part, I'm sure you guys have your quarterbacks, especially if you're still alive. But, those are some options for you. At running back, if Jerome Ford's available, obviously, he's probably not available. But if he is, you can pick him up and start him. Also, Craig Reynolds, with David Montgomery being injured, he's going to get some usage, but I'm still definitely in the camp that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get basically all of it. And so I'm not too worried about starting Craig Reynolds, but I don't mind picking him up. And then Amir Abdullah. We saw him actually catch a ton of passes last night. With the Sincere McCormick injury, Amir Abdullah might step up to end the season as a pass-catching back. But generally, after that, we're really only worried about handcuff running backs. Kendre Miller with the Alvin Kamara injury. Ray Davis, Kamani Vidal, Jalen Wright, Blake Corum. I guess not Trey Benson anymore. With his injury. Patrick Taylor, Khalil Herbert, Isaiah Davis with the Braylon Allen kind of banged up back. Antonio Gibson. Maybe even Audric Estime. But basically, any backup running back is what you're looking for right now. In fact, that's going to be our priority, right? Even if, essentially, the way I'm looking at it, if you've made it this far, you probably don't need anyone off waivers. But if you have the room, the thing that you should be doing is putting a backup running back on your bench just in case. So that's what I'm going to recommend. At the wide receiver position, there is a few players, and really none of these I really want, but we'll say Jalen Coker, right? With the Xavier Legette injury, we did see him kind of show up in a big way. Still kind of iffy on starting him, but if you're in a pinch and Xavier Legette's out, he might be fine. But just remember, a lot of his production came off one play. Malik Washington, I don't think he's going to do great, but with Jalen Waddle potentially injured, maybe he'll step up in a little bit. If you're looking for a boom bust, Alec Pierce did injure his groin, so that field stretcher role is likely going to go to Adonai Mitchell. We'll see. Again, not really feeling great about starting him, but somebody has to catch those deep bombs that Anthony Richardson throws. And then, of course, Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, these Buccaneers wide receivers we've been mentioning all season. I told you guys not to drop Jalen McMillan. Kept mentioning Sterling Shepard. Basically, outside of Mike Evans, there's still a lot of passes going around. Jalen McMillan has been stepping up in particular, but Sterling Shepard can step up as well in full PPR. And then otherwise, Rashad Bateman, I guess, if you want a little bit of a boom bust. Ray McLeod in full PPR. I know he had a bad game last night, but, still we've seen him be at least kind of consistent. Demario Douglas still looks like someone that is at least the wide receiver 1-ish in New England. Don't feel comfortable about starting him, but if you need one, he's there, and they're taking on Buffalo this week. Elijah Moore, I know he just had negative yards, but Jameis Winston's still slinging it. Brandon Cooks, he has kind of fallen off. Same with Jalen Tolbert, but we talk about Cooper Rush, and they have a decent schedule to end the year, maybe, I guess. Jalen Tolbert, Brandon Cooks, maybe. Again, these wide receivers, it's just And then Alan Lazard, call me crazy, but he did have 4 targets this week, no receptions, but this was his first game back from injury. We know Aaron Rodgers likes his guys. So if you're in a deeper league and Alan Lazard was dropped, I actually don't hate it. This is another one that we talked about, heading back to week 0 even. We said that he's probably going to end up being sneaky just because of the Aaron Rodgers connection. Now, of course, Devontae Adams is there. Things have changed, but still 4 or 5 targets is nothing to scoff at. And they do take on the Bills in week 17, which is a fun matchup. And then lastly, a tight end, Noah Gray. As I talked about, you don't feel great about it, but he has been kind of consistent. And we actually see sometimes when these backup quarterbacks come in, they do lock on to their backup tight end, their tight end in general, basically whoever they've kind of been practicing with. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wentz and Gray have a small connection. This is just a guess, totally just a guess. But I don't hate that thinking. Mike Gesicki. Bengals are finding themselves in shootouts to end the year, looking to make the playoffs. He could end up having a ceiling game at some point this year. And then with Zach Ertz having a concussion, same could be said about the Commanders, looking to make the playoffs, looking to finish the year strong. Ben Sinnott hopefully stepping up in that tight end room. But yeah, for the most part, You guys have made it here. You're not really looking for anyone off the waivers, but I do see a few questions that I would love to get into. But before I get into those questions, I do want to let you guys know about the Player Profiler all-in package.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on PlayerProfiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All-In package to continue to make all this possible. If you can't do All-In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks. Our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
Yeah, and in case you're wondering, the Player Profiler All-In package is on sale now for just $25. You can get access to every tool on Player Profiler for the rest of the season with promo code Santa. We will be running that through the end of the year as a little bit of a holiday special. So use promo code Santa on the All-In package to get every single Player Profiler tool. That's the rankings, the DFS Dominator, the data analysis, and plenty more for just $25 with promo code Santa. Cannot recommend that enough. Cool. Everyone, let's see if we have any questions. Again, Tuesday's just locked in as a waiver day, but I woke up this morning and I was like, do we really need waivers? And yes, a little bit. We do need it. It's just different. So again, ask me some questions. We'll get it going. Let's see. Well, Jonathan is thinking of dropping Calvin Ridley to pick up Jalen McMillan. And this is what I would say. Calvin Ridley, of course, and the Titans really in general, have looked a lot worse over the last few weeks. And so if you are not starting Calvin Ridley, which to be honest, you're probably not, then I don't hate this move, but it is important to note that Calvin Ridley has been hit or miss, right, over the last few weeks. Like going back to week 10 even, 25, 10, 14, and then, of course, 6, 13, 9. Like, those have definitely been some disappointments. But we did talk about the Titans' schedule a few weeks back at the playoffs episode, and they do have a decent end to the year. They take on the Colts this week, and then they take on the Jaguars. In fact, that's a Calvin Ridley revenge game in the Fantasy Football Championship. And so I'm not sure if I would actually put Jalen McMillan ahead of Calvin Ridley, to be completely honest with you. I mean, he is the wide receiver 1, and they have a decent schedule to end the year. And even, like week 14, he still had 12 targets. It just didn't amount to much. And only 5 targets against the Bengals. But again, this was a game that we didn't expect much from anyway. Mason Rudolph maybe taking over for the rest of the season. I honestly think I would lean Ridley here, Jonathan. It's tough. I do want to try to get McMillan. But it is possible Sterling Shepard returns, right? And that was kind of where a lot of McMillan's usage came from this week in particular, was that he was the wide receiver 2. Now with Shepard potentially coming back, him and McMillan would be like the 2A, 2B type thing. And McMillan will still be good, but Calvin Ridley's a true wide receiver 1. And so I'm going to lean Ridley. And as I mentioned, I like that Jaguars championship game. That could actually end up being a fun one. And of course, Dustin dropped Coker and Jalen McMillan. Sorry to hear that, man. Hopefully you're able to pick up someone good. And hopefully maybe you can pick that back up. Although I believe if it is FFPC, they are locked for the rest of the season. Unfortunate timing there. Wide receivers are so tough. That's why I hate the headache, right? That's kind of what I talk about a lot, right? Where it's just like, think about the headache that you're going to have with a wide receiver that could end up being good on your bench versus just having the lottery ticket running back and hoping things go well. Each their own. Different strokes, different folks. This looks to be a start-sit question. Full PPR, Ladd McConkey versus Cooper Kupp. And I love that you're bringing in the weather for this, Jake. And I would say, yeah, Cooper Kupp having kind of a rough last few weeks. Taking on the Jets, which is a decent, I mean, it's a tough secondary, but Brian Thomas just shredded them. But, obviously in Los Angeles, it's not just Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua is there as well. And with it being 25 degrees in New York, that is never fun. And of course, Ladd McConkey in the Dome. Probably the answer there is Ladd McConkey in full PPR. A fun divisional game, division on the line. In fact, playoffs on the line really for both of those teams. Let's see, what else? Dustin just wants to remind us, if you can, and you have space on your bench, you could grab players that your opponent might need to play. And I think that that is a fantastic little tidbit there. If you know that if you look at your opponent's roster and see like, hey, they need a quarterback this week, maybe take whatever quarterback's on the wire. Maybe they have Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller's available. Block them from Kendre Miller. Do whatever it takes to keep your opponent from scoring points. That's a fantastic piece of advice, Dustin. Love it. When does it renew? I believe after the Super Bowl. And you can turn off auto renew if you need to. You traded away George Pickens and Breece Hall for Puka, Chuba Hubbard, and a 25-second. I don't think. Oh, man. Hard to say W or L. It's like right there in the middle. It depends what that second turns into. But yeah, I mean, Chuba is looking like actually a good dynasty piece with this Jonathan Brooks injury. But I do think Breece Hall bounces back. I do think Puka Nacua is a fine price as well. I don't mind selling George Pickens. But it's close, man. I would almost rather have Pickens and Hall. But it depends. I mean, if that second turns into something sweet, then you've definitely won. Definitely don't get cute, Charlene. Just play your studs. Would you flex Jonnu over guys like J-Mo, Mooney, or Tracy this week? None of those matchups are front of mind right now, to be completely honest with you. I know J-Mo is taking on the Bears, which could be hit or miss, so maybe there. But even then, I think that but Jonnu's been on fire too. Probably over Mooney. Ask me again when we get closer. Today, I focused on waivers. Kupp totally could go off this week. I don't necessarily want to bench him. I just think that Ladd McConkey is a little bit better of a start. Would you start DJ Moore or Ladd McConkey over any of these running backs, Jonathan Taylor, King Henry, Breece Hall? I might start Ladd over Breece Hall, but even then, Breece Hall is looking like he is getting his volume back. Was fine. Was able to make it into the game. Score a touchdown. But if it was over any of these, it would be Ladd McConkey over Breece Hall. And yeah. You're probably right, Andrew. Well, I mean, no. I mean, seriously, like, no questions? I guess that's fair, right? You guys have probably made it this far. Not really too worried about it. Congratulations to all of you. Seems like today will end up being a short little show. Tomorrow's episode, I'll go ahead and let you know, will be pre-recorded. I've got a family thingy to attend to tomorrow, so I'm going to go ahead and record tomorrow's episode. I'm assuming it'll be about the playoffs, whether it be rebuilding, target, something like that. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a live draft. I'm still cooking up, still marinating here. But there will be an episode tomorrow. I will not be here. It'll just be pre-recorded, but definitely still enjoy. And thank you, as always, for tuning in today. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe. And we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.